Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Permex Petroleum's YouTube. Hope everybody is doing well. Here with Marin, of course. Gotta ask Marin, how are you doing during these volatile times?
Well, it's definitely interesting times. As you know, yesterday the markets took a hit. It was not relevant to oil and gas as much, but across the board, the oil and gas industry got hit yesterday. Thankfully, today, again, it's rebounding a bit. We're noticing some of the large caps come back up, which always assists, and the juniors should follow again.
Yeah. I think everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna stabilize. It was I think it was kind of a market craze happening for a minute there, but yeah, I think everything's gonna be fine, especially
I
for
agree.
oil and gas. Anyways, so today we dove into your past in the last video. Now we want to dive into Permex Petroleum, okay? So for those new here, can you re-mention how first off you got involved with the company?
Sure. So prior to getting involved in Permex Petroleum, originally, as I indicated, I used to do direct participation programs, DPPs in particular. What it essentially means is you join in with our operators as a working interest partner, meaning if they're drilling wells, you go in front of bill associated with your working interest ownership on that well bore being drilled, and you are obligated to take part in any AFE authorized expenditures beyond the amount of money you put in. But the rewards are great too. So if the well comes in and starts producing a tremendous amount as a working interest partner, you pride yourself in taking revenue from that wellbore directly versus owning a stock. But on the other side, again, costs can go very high. As I indicated previously, I had months that costs went up as high as $500,000. When you get a bill for $500,000 on an investment that you've already made a couple $100,000 into, that's an eye opener. That got me involved more on the operator side within the oil and gas, and that's how I got involved with Permex Petroleum. Prior to this, we started numerous private oil and gas companies, limited partnerships, MLPs, pipelines in West Virginia, in Eastern Kentucky, in Texas, and the Gulf Coast side. And we sold them. We would buy them, develop them, sell them, or we would transport, being natural gas. That led to a team of geologists and engineers coming together, partnering up with us as well, and creating Permex, which was private originally. Then we took it public. Here we are, 2021, hoping that the past 2 to 3 years of volatility is behind us, and hopefully this pandemic is done with as well in the next year, and markets come back up. Oil and gas goes as well.
Yep. I'm feeling pretty positive about 2021. But so let's dive more into what the company does. So obviously you're a petroleum company. Can you break that down for your common investor?
Sure, of course. So I'll give you on a high level. Permex owns and operates assets across the Permian Basin of West Texas and the Delaware Basin of Southeast New Mexico. We are in the hottest region you can be in as far as oil and gas in North America. We're licensed and bonded operators to operate on both states within New Mexico and Texas on private land, state land, and even federal land. And we do own assets in all three categories. Typically, we seek to acquire oil and gas properties and assets in a down market, buying them, if we can, pennies on a dollar. Then we go in and optimize them and develop them and utilize that to add value to our shareholders and production increases as well. Beyond that, we'll look to divest of some of these assets as we optimize them for a premium to the market price.
Okay. So you sweep in when the getting's good, get them low, build them up, and then you divest them later on when they're worth a lot more.
Correct.
Awesome. So then what really edges you out versus other petro companies?
I think that's a good question. And most people touch on stuff that's irrelevant to the actual value proposition. But what I want to do is start with the most basic thing, location. In real estate, you always hear location, location, location. It's no different than oil and gas assets. Location is very important. Permex has a tremendous opportunity here because we're in one of the best geographical locations you can ever be, and that's the Permian Basin. In fact, we're a junior oil and gas company, but our assets are surrounded by all the large caps. You have Exxon, Hess, Conoco, Concho, Diamondback. All of them surround our assets. That is how we know we have great assets, and that is a value proposition we have from a location standpoint. Looking at it from a secondary point is no debt. I can't touch enough on this subject. Debt is a killer for oil and gas companies. In fact, it's unheard of for oil and gas companies not have debt. I urge all of the potential shareholders or shareholders to go and review the balance sheet of any oil and gas company you want. They all have debt. We pride ourselves in the fact that we have never taken on debt. We have bought assets with equity. We have developed assets with equity. And to date, we will carry on zero debt moving forward in acquiring new assets or developing our assets. That is a second value proposition. The third one I would say is asset value versus market cap. If you pull up our audited reserve reports and take a look to see where we stand from an asset standpoint, we have $89 million US audited reserves. Out of that, 44 million is proven reserves, and our market cap sits at 2 million. There's a disconnect. This applies to across the board right now. Most oil and gas companies are undervalued. But when you look at this metric of Permex, it is significantly undervalued. And I believe it's a buyer's market for energy stocks. And I believe it's a buyer's market even furthermore for Permex, given the actual disconnect between what we have in proven reserves to develop and where our market cap is. And these would be my 3 points I want to discuss this time. There's a lot more value propositions we can discuss next round, but these are the 3 core subjects of why we believe Permex is in a great location, it carries no debt, and the fact of its reserves versus valuation.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So you guys are in the right place. You guys don't have a bunch of debt. That's, I mean, as you said, that's pretty unheard of in almost any industry to have very, very low debt.
And I, you know what, I have to mention this. My board, if you pull up our board of directors and see who we are, majority of them have been in this industry for more than 30, 40 years. They've been through these cycles many times. Companies have been made and companies have been lost due to the fact of carrying debt. I can give you a prime example. If you pull up a company named Lillis Energy, LLEX, this was a fantastic company years ago. In fact, it operated side by side with Permex on certain properties out there. They grew too fast, decided to take on debt to expedite their growth, and the company went bankrupt for absolutely no reason, but they couldn't service their debt when oil prices dropped. There was no reason for them to borrow, but they just wanted to do it. And in our industry, greed and optimism kills.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty across the board.
Yeah.
About to say castles made of sand fall, man. So that's really
true.
That's really good that you guys are building up, slow and steady, building a really strong foundation. So you had mentioned the board. Is there any specific members of the teams you'd like to highlight?
I think Barry Whelan would be our chief operating officer. He worked with Gulf Oil for over 20 years internationally. Pulling his background up, he has done tremendous amount of work within this industry and continues to assist the company in growing its operations. I could talk about every single one of them. Doug Urge, for instance, has been a pivotal point for us to join it. Greg Montgomery, a pivotal point. Dale Lee is a reservoir engineer. Dale focuses on secondary market recovery, where we go in and do enhanced oil recovery through water floods. A tremendous amount of work goes into these things. And all of them have expertise that tie in properly with certain areas of our company that we need work done. We all have knowledge across the board, but the designated knowledge that each individual brings to the table is key for us.
Wonderful. Well, it really sounds like you have a lot of good things going for you here. So is there anything else you want to squeeze in before we sign off today?
As you know, I'm a man of limited words to start with. So let's leave it there for now and look forward to next week's call.
All right. Sounds good. And hopefully sometime in the future, we can get some of these other guys on maybe.
Absolutely, we can. Yes.
Awesome. Sounds good, Mayron. Thank you so much for your time. Take it easy.
You as well. Bye.